that you said that we're changing our case plan, which we're specifically not. Then you said about the court action. True, yes, there were court orders for some super hyper kids that were causing a lot of trouble in class. But look, now that doesn't happen too often. When it does, apparently it was meant to be. That's I'd like to say that most of it is personal decisions. Like for example, wouldn't you rather have offered different opportunities and different ways of dealing with your own problem? I mean, if you have a problem, sure, there's some things that must be done to you for your own better good, you know. And then what about like the rest of the people that are somewhat controllable with ADHD? I mean, wouldn't they rather have options that would suit themselves better? That's precisely what we're trying to say. We're not changing anything here. And you said the mind and the brain. True, that was a mistake of ours, pardon us. But then you also said
4 minutes.
Writing is well, we said the mind is a function of the brain. If there's something wrong with the brain, you can't really think right. So it is a mental illness. That's another very important thing. And you said writing is a function, all right? If something's wrong with your hand, I mean, you can't write properly. Wouldn't you want your hand to get fixed? This is exactly what we're doing here. They said the writing. This is how we're relying the writing to the thing. And we're moving money around. This shouldn't cause the economy to drop. We're not taxing anything. We're not doing anything in particular. We're just moving money that shouldn't drop the economy, especially the economy of other countries. The Russia and the missiles, they're not going to, moving money from ADHD and is not going to cause Russia to work with missiles, I believe it was.
November 1st, 2002. This is the debate tournament. They're in recess right now. The first round was over and Naslin and her partner Natalia won the debate. In the second round, there will be one more round after this. It's around 550 in the first round.
Ritalin is the primary prescription for treatment. Richard Grand Prix, Ritalin Nation 2000. With Ritalin as the exclusive treatment in about 90% of all cases of ADD, the principal function of the ADD diagnosis now seems to be as gatekeeper to Ritalin. B. Parents are forced to medicate their children with Ritalin. Court orders scare parents into continuing Ritalin use. Karen Thomas, Behavioral Drugs in Schools, September 29, 2000. It's an emergent twist in the growing debate about diagnosing and medicating children with ADD and ADHD. An Albany, New York couple put their 7-year-old son back on Ritalin after a family court ruled that they must continue medicating him for ADD. C. Federal incentives encourage drug therapy for nation's children. Schools receive extra money for ADHD children. Patty Johnson, Behavioral Drugs in Schools, September 29, 2000. The following year, a memo was issued by the U.S. Department of Education Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, which stated a child could qualify for special education if he was determined to have ADHD. At this time, the IDEA legislation provided schools with an additional $400 per year for each child in special education, now well over $600. There followed a dramatic spike in the amount of methylphenidate consumed in the U.S. According to the DEA, the production and use of methylphenidate increased almost 6-fold between 1990 and 1995. Contention 2, harm. Drug therapy is inadequate in treating ADHD. A. ADHD is a mental illness. Red Chowdhury, Behavioral Drugs in Schools, September 29, 2000. In fact, there is broad scientific agreement that ADHD is a disorder based on decades of NIMH-sponsored research. Certainly that is the conclusion of the Surgeon General's report on mental health, the most recent and definitive statement of the research of the science underlying mental disorders. The Surgeon General devotes 8 pages of the report to a review of ADHD research. B. Ritalin does not remedy root causes of the disease. 1. Drugs do not provide long-term solutions for problems. Michael Castle, Ritalin use among youth, May 16, 2000. Just because Ritalin helps some children, it does not mean that it's a cure. As a constituent of mine once put it, kids can learn to live with a learning disability, and they can deal with their emotions if they have help. Kids whose symptoms are banished with drugs only get drugs, not help, and not long-term solutions for their problems. 2. Symptoms remain until underlying causes eliminated. Marianne Block, No More ADHD, 2001. I have heard many physicians state that Ritalin has been used for years, and we know more about it than any other drug. Ritalin has been used since the 1950s, so many doctors believe that over the extent of time, the drug has proven itself safe for use in children. In the past, however, the drug was prescribed for short periods of time until it was judged that the child had outgrown the symptoms of hyperactivity and inattentiveness. Now, we know that children do not outgrow the symptoms but continue to have them for life unless something is done to eliminate the underlying cause. C. Psychiatric drug treatment can create physical and mental problems. C. 1. Stimulants in permanently alter brain chemistry. Peter Bregan, Behavioral Drugs in Schools, Question and Answer, September 29, 2000. Similar studies of methylphenidate show long-lasting and sometimes permanent damages to the biochemistry of the brain. All stimulants impair growth not only by suppressing appetite but also by disrupting growth hormone production. This poses a threat to every organ of the body, including the brain, during the child's growth. The disruption of neurotransmitter systems adds to this threat. 2. Psychiatric drug treatment leads to depression. Peter Bregan, The Antidepressant Handbook, 2001. Nowadays, psychiatric drugs, including stimulants like Ritalin and Adderall, commonly cause children to become depressed. When doctors fail to recognize the drug-induced natures of the child's depression, they mistakenly prescribe antidepressants that worsen the child's mental condition. This leads to further deterioration, more drugs, and increased blunting of the child's mental life. By the time I become involved as a psychiatrist of last resort, drugs have taken the luster out of the child's eyes, and the child roller coasters from one unstable emotion to another. 3. Quality of patient's life deteriorates with excessive drugging. Peter Bregan, Talking Back to Ritalin, 2001. Here's a pattern I have seen repeated a number of times in recent months. First, the child is put on Ritalin or Adderall for minor school or family problems. When the stimulant causes insomnia, a sedating drug like clonopin or clonidine is added at night. When the drug combination makes the child depressed, an antidepressant like Prozac or Paxil is added. When the 3 drugs impair the child's emotional stability, making him aggressive and unpredictable for the first time, the parents are told that their child's bipolar or manic depressive disorder has emerged. Now, lithium or Depakote is added as a mood stabilizer. When this medically negligent overdosing with 4 drugs leads to bizarre behavior, the child is put on antipsychotics such as rebuttal or Zyprexa. Of all the drugs that this child was prescribed, not only the stimulants were FDA approved for children. Although the parents were not told, 4 or 5 of the drugs were off-label and the combination was wholly unjustified on any clinical or scientific grounds. The cocktail of medications was guaranteed to ruin the child's mental life and eventually to leave lasting harmful effects. Yet this polypharmacy approach has become too commonplace. The U.S. federal government will substantially increase public health services to include psychotherapy as means of treating ADD and ADHD. The U.S. federal government will end financial incentives and promote psychotherapy. P1, funding and enforcement through normal means. P2, legislative intent. P3, ask reserve right to clarify. Contention 3, solvency. Promote the use of psychotherapy to more effectively treat ADD and ADHD. A, psychotherapy has less stigma than drug therapy. Peter Bregan, Reclaiming Our Children, 2000. Psychiatric diagnosis and treatment causes stigma. If instead, people view themselves as suffering from traumatic experiences, family conflict, psychological and spiritual crises, or alienation, they are not as likely to feel stigmatized. They instead have the opportunity to overcome these obstacles in their lives through counseling or therapy, improve principles of living, religion, and all other methods of personal empowerment that are available in the community. B, combined therapy is most effective. Susan Simon's Depression in Women, 2001. This study found that combined therapy was the most effective, with nifazodone producing more rapid effects than psychotherapy in the first 4 weeks of treatment, and psychotherapy showing a greater effect during the second half of the treatment trial. The fact that the efficacy of combined treatment and nifazodone was similar during the first 4 weeks of the study, but that combined treatment was more efficacious later in the study suggests that when medication and psychotherapy are administered together, they continue to have independent rather than synergistic mechanisms of action. C, individualized intervention reduces problematic conditions. David Fassler, Behavioral Drugs in Schools, September 29, 2000. In summary, let me emphasize that child psychiatric disorders, including ADHD, are very real and diagnosable illnesses that affect lots of kids. The good news is that they are also highly treatable. We can't cure all the kids that we see, but with comprehensive, individualized intervention, we can significantly reduce the extent to which their conditions interfere with their lives. The key for parents and teachers is to identify kids with problems as early as possible and make sure that they get the help that they need. And I'm ready for questions.
All right. In inherency 2, I believe it was, you said